But for people that are hopeful that want to get into this industry, I have two big pieces of advice, right? The first thing is do things that aren't musical theater. And then my last piece of advice, and this is probably the biggest thing, is like when I did the Broadway percussion seminar my first year, I heard a quote from one of who I think is one of the best Broadway drummers out there, in my opinion, Clint Gannon. Okay. He gave a quote at this seminar and he said, your personality will get you farther than your talent will.
Welcome to Broadway Drumming 101. My guest today is Frank Zambrano. How are you today?
I'm great, Clayton. How are you?
I'm wonderful. It's early in the morning here in New York, and you are in Detroit.
I'm in Detroit, Michigan.
Now,
Motown, baby.
Before we started talking, I was just saying I had to drink something which has caffeine in it, and how I need that in order to function, which is unfortunate because it's a drug, and you don't drink caffeine. You don't like tea. You don't like coffee.
Nope.
No Monster drinks. No Red Bull.
No, I'll have a Monster once a year in dire situations.
So before you play a show, how do you prepare? You just drink a lot of water?
Yeah, pretty much. I
Really?
have this Stanley thermos or whatever you want to call it, this jug with me. It's a gallon and it's filled with water, and it's the best investment I've ever made.
You drink that one of those a day, or just
sometimes?
Damn.
But I fill it with ice as well, and it keeps the ice in there for 2 days.
All right, I think I need to adjust my routine and give me one of those. Anyway,
yeah.
So you're in Motown. You are on the Kimberly Akimbo tour.
Yes, sir.
And first of all, did you go to the Motown Museum?
I did. Went last week. It was phenomenal. Getting to just be surrounded by that much history was just like, it was a lot. Kind of emotional, but also just really cool.
What was your favorite part there?
Being inside Studio A and just knowing all the history that has happened there, all the musicians that have rolled through there, like seeing the actual instruments. And they have a Steinway piano that was from, I want to say like either early 1900s, something like that. And like, it's just beautiful. And then they have photos of the Temptations recording a song in there, and it's like right above where that actually is in the studio. So just being surrounded by that much history is just amazing.
So speaking of history, let's talk about you.
Okay.
You are from New York. I met you in New York. Are you from New York? New York City? New
I'm
York
born
State.
and raised in Elmsford, New York, which is in Westchester County. So
home of the great Elmsford Diner.
The El Dorado Diner.
El Dorado Diner. That's right.
Yeah. Yep.
It's a great diner.
Great diner.
And you have been playing drums all your life? Or like, when did you start playing drums?
Yeah, I had an interesting journey with drums because I didn't grow up like banging on pots and pans or any of that. No one else in my family, pretty much in my bloodline, is a musician. I don't know if it's the same where you grew up, but in my school district in third grade, everyone has to learn how to play the recorder, the little high-pitched recorder. And in third grade, I really fell in love with it. And at the end of the year, you take this kind of proficiency test. And if you pass it, you get to be in band the next year. And my mom saw that I was really gung-ho about it. I was really into it. And she was like, listen, you could take the test. And my mom's old school Italian. So she was like, you can take the test. You can pick whatever instrument you want. You want to play sax, tuba, trumpet, drums, flute, clarinet. I don't care. But you're going to carry your own instrument. My mom was like, I'm not carrying your instrument for you. And I was like, fine, fair trade. So I looked at the supply list. And at the time, drums was the little Remo practice pad, right? The little circular Remo practice pad, a book, and a pair of sticks. And I was like, that's light. I can put that in my book bag.
Little did you know how heavy drums could be.
Later on, yeah. When we eventually bought a drum set, I'm like, oh, crap, that's a lot. Wow.
So you had a practice pad. What was the book that you were learning from?
The Standard of Excellence book. It really, honestly, like great beginner drum book. Just to learn quarter notes, eighth notes, 16, for the basic rudiments, dynamics, like really great book. And I think they had different colors and each one was a different difficulty. Red was beginner, blue was intermediate, green was advanced, something like that. I started off with the red book and then went all the way through it.
And that was elementary school?
That was elementary school. That was fourth grade when I first picked up drumsticks.
Now, I used to teach a while ago, and I would teach some students open-handed because I always found teaching cross-handed didn't make any sense to me. I was like, why don't I just teach with the left hand playing the hi-hat and the right hand playing the snare drum? Did you learn open-handed? Did your teacher, when you eventually took drum lessons, did you learn with your right hand over your left?
No, so it's interesting that you say that. I don't know if we ever talked about it, but I am a lefty.
Oh, wow.
I am a lefty, but I have what I like to call the Ringo Starr syndrome, where Ringo was a lefty, but he played on a righty kit, and I'm the same exact way. Now, that's not by choice. It's more just like when I took drum set lessons in seventh grade, private drum set lessons, my tutor never asked me, hey, are you lefty or righty? He just said, this is how you play drums, and taught me crossed, taught me the righty way. And then when I started doing like lefty fills, he never corrected me. So now at my ripe 25 years of age, I can do righty fills. I can do lefty fills on a right-handed drum set. For the show, for Kimberly Akimbo, the first song, I have to do two hands on the hi-hat and then hit the snare on 2 and 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hitting this, I'm starting with my left and hitting the snare with my left.
Right.
Instead of starting with my right and hitting the snare with my right. And my right foot is still doing the bass drum.
So do you play open-handed?
No, I can't. It's
What?
open-handed. Like I've tried, it's hard for me.
Really?
I need to get better at it.
So even though you're a lefty, you play righty. I mean, you
Yep.
play like traditionally, I guess.
Like everyone else.
I guess that kind of helps when you have to sub, especially in New York. I don't know if there are any lefty drummers.
It made like subbing, it made like going to jam sessions, picking up on other gigs just way easier. Because when you go to a studio or when you go to sub for someone, when you go to a jam session, 98% of the time, the drum set's going to be set up for a righty. So if the drum set's set up for a lefty, I'm screwed.
Yeah, that's true.
So I sit down, I feel comfortable, I can get around the kit, I'm fine. So I'm very fortunate. My tutor never asked me if I was lefty or righty.
Is your ride cymbal on the right or left?
It's on the right.
Really?
Yep.
So when you write, if you ever write, because people don't usually write nowadays, do you write with your left hand on paper?
I write with my left hand. I throw with my left hand. My fork is in my left hand.
Really?
You know, like I pick my water bottle up with my left hand. Like, I open doors with my left hand.
That's so interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shannon's the same way. Shannon Ford. He's a lefty, but he does almost everything righty. Like he still writes with his left hand. I found that kind of interesting.
So have you ever boxed at all?
No.
Be interesting to jab with your right, and then your left would be the cross. Anyway, I digress. So you went through elementary school, junior high. Did you get a drum set then?
Yes, I got a drum set at the end of seventh grade, I believe. And I took private lessons from seventh grade through eighth grade. His name is Eric Eagle, and great guy. I hadn't seen him since eighth grade, since I stopped taking drum lessons with him. And I met him again for the first time last year. He had moved to California. Then I think he went up to Canada and I fell out of touch with him. He friended me on Facebook like a year or two ago. And then he shot me a message like, hey, I'm going to be back in New York. I just wrote a book. I want to give you a copy of it. I think it's called like The Guide to Rhythmic Freedom. Really great book. Definitely check it out. And met up and I told him, I was like, dude, thank you for never asking me if I was lefty or righty. You have no idea how much that helped me in life. He's, wait, I never asked you that? I'm like, no. He's, crap, I should have. I'm like, no, you shouldn't have. You helped me tremendously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did you start practicing to music, or was it just all method books and rudiments?
It was all, so I learned how to play drum set through method books. So I think we started with this one called Rock and Bass Drum. I forgot who it's by, but I learned drum set by reading charts first. Like I never learned by ear.
Mm.
And I prefer reading charts personally. It makes sense to me. I know how to play by ear now, and I can listen to a song, pick out the drum part, and figure it out. But I preferred always reading charts. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Did that help or hurt in any way moving to high school?
It's interesting. Like in my high school, I went to a very small high school. My graduating class was 65 kids.
Damn.
Yeah.
Wow.
I knew everyone on a first and last name basis and basically where they lived. Elmsford's 1 square mile. Everyone knows everyone in that town.
Okay.
Village, I should say. We are a village.
Mm.
So, like, my high school had a concert band, and that was it. We didn't have a jazz band. We didn't have a marching band because we didn't have a football team. I missed out on all of those experiences of all the jazz training, that all the jazz exposure you're supposed to get in high school. I didn't have any really rudimental chops because we didn't have a marching band. I didn't know how to play traditional until
Mm.
like college. Reading charts through drum set, like it made concert band like way easier because I could pick out rhythms really easily. And no one else in the concert band in the percussion section knew how to play drum set really, except for me. So I would naturally be given like all the drum set parts whenever there was one. That was cool. That was fine. But from 10th grade to like beginning of senior year of high school, I really fell out of love with drumming and I took a hiatus from it. And I just wasn't there.
Why did that happen?
I don't really know. I think I just fell out of love with it. Like it wasn't interesting to me anymore. But then I had a resurgence in a sense throughout my senior year. Senior year, you're thinking about colleges, what college to go to. And I was like, I would love to do music in school. Like I want to do music, but I didn't know exactly what. And most of these performance schools are like, you have to do classical or you have to do jazz, and you should be good at either of them if you're going to audition for us. And I don't agree with that model whatsoever. I could write a whole PowerPoint presentation on why I hate the current college music education system. Because what about me, a guy who didn't really get exposed to classical percussion and a guy who didn't get exposed to jazz, but wants to get better at both, but has no exposure and no chops in either. But what about me? So I can't study that in college now because I have no exposure to
Mm.
it. I think it's unfair, personally.
One thing, I didn't go to music school, and there are a lot of things that you can teach like this that they don't teach in music school. But I have an issue with music schools. Like you said, jazz or classical, they look at those two things as if those are the only two musics that mattered.
Yeah.
And what about rock? What about funk? What about country?
What about
Country music, what's that?
what about Latin music?
Latin. You're not necessarily playing rap music. It has a historical impact and influence on our society and the world since 1979. But
Absolutely.
playing all kinds of music, as we are going to discuss, it matters when you play on Broadway because you have to play all these different things. You just can't come out playing bebop and expecting to play Kimberly Akimbo.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, we
Yeah.
could write a whole book. In fact,
Yeah.
we should do that after.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Guaranteed. New York Times bestseller.
So did you, before we get to your college years, when you were in high school from the 10th to the 12th grade, you said you strayed away from drums, but were you playing drum set at all? Were you downstairs practicing after school? Like, what were you doing?
No, I was,
Really?
no. And that's the thing. I fell into the rut of playing video games in my room and like hanging out with friends. And like I still played drums and percussion in band, week, but that was it. It felt more just like a school activity than something I enjoyed at the
Mm.
time. And yeah, and then it wasn't until like senior year, my high school band director, his name is Rob Jacoby. He was like a Broadway saxophone player. And he kind of jump started this whole like Broadway thing for me because I had like always been a theater kid. Like I'd always loved musicals. My mom would take my sister and I to the city since we live so close to go see musicals every now and then. And I genuinely loved it. And then my senior year, we were doing Seussical as our school musical. And I listened to the music. I was like, oh, this is really fun. I really like this kind of music. And I went up to my band director and I said, hey, Mr. Jacoby, can I do drums for the school musical? And he said, absolutely not. Because he had never had a kid in the pit. He always hired pros, always hired his Broadway friends or just like local professionals. I was like, why? He's like, you're not ready. And I was like, okay. So I begged and pleaded, let me do something. Like, I want to do something. I want to play. So we came to an agreement. He let me play the exit music for the school musical. So
Okay.
every night I sat in the pit for the entirety of Act Two. And then when it was time for the exit music, the pro and I switched and I played the exit music.
Wow.
And it was cool for me. Like I was like, this is awesome. I'm playing with other pro musicians as a senior in high school. And like, I really enjoyed it. And like, I was watching the pro play for the entirety of Act Two. And I was like, this is so cool, everything he's doing. So then I asked my band teacher, I was like, hey, so like, how does one do this? And he was like, there's really no like auditions. You just have to know people and you just got to network and all that. So he put me in touch with this drummer from the Westchester Broadway Dinner Theater in my town in Elmsford. And I went to go sit in with him a few times just to watch him play. And I was like, yeah, this is kind of what I want to do. But at the time, I had already decided my college major, which was not performance.
Yeah. What was it?
I was originally a music technology major and
Okay.
like sound engineering, music production. I went to Mercy College in Dobbs Ferry for a year and a half because I originally loved EDM, electronic dance music, the only kind of music I'd listened to in throughout my high school life. I dreamt about DJing clubs in Vegas, DJing like all these big music festivals like Tomorrowland, Ultra, all that. And then when I got to Mercy and I took my first production classes, I realized I sucked at production. Like I sucked at production, I sucked at composition. Like it was just, I was way in over my head. And then I was like, yeah, I need to be doing performance. And I stuck with it. I stuck with the whole music technology major for a year and a half. Then during my last semester there, which was fall 2018, my music theory professor came up to me before his class and he pulled me aside and he's like, Frank, what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm here for your class. And he's, no, why are you at this school? You should be in a like doing performance. You should be playing drums. And I'm like, okay. So the entirety of his class, his like 3.5 hour lecture, I am on my laptop looking up schools. And he knew that. He knew I was not paying attention and he was completely fine with it. I was looking up just different schools. I see my local community college, Westchester Community College, has a performing arts program. So I go and apply and get in, right? And I just took different ensembles while I was there, different other music classes, got my associates in that one semester with all the credits that transferred over. And then I was looking for another school to transfer to because I wanted to get my bachelor's and I wanted to go to a performance school. And this is where I found where I ultimately ended up, SUNY Oneonta. And it's upstate New York, nestled between Albany and Binghamton. I originally was scared about going to Oneonta because they had like a reputation for being a party school and like a stoner school. And I was like, that's not me. Like, I don't know how I feel about that. And I had a cousin that went there and everyone was like, listen, it's what you make of it. If you don't choose to do any of that, you don't have to. And that kind of put my nerves aside. So I emailed the director of percussion there. Her name's Julie Licata. And I said, hey, I'm interested in auditioning. I just want to know what the audition like process is like.
When they said, "Do you know jazz and classical?" You were like,
Yeah, that's what I asked. I was like, do I have to do a jazz piece? Do I have to do a classical piece? And she said, no, you can do whatever you want. And I was like, so what you're saying is I can go in there, play like two Broadway tunes and a rudimental snare drum solo, and then that can be my audition? And she's like, yeah, that would be fun. So my dad and I drive up in March of 2019, and I do my audition in person. And I played, what was it? I played Oh, the Things You Can Think from Seussical, and I played Positive from Legally Blonde. And then I did some Will Coxon snare drum solo.
mm,
And then they were like, great, you're in. And they asked me, what other schools did you apply to? And I was like, none, because it was either this or bust. Like, because all the other schools were classical or jazz, and this was like, you can do whatever you want, which I really liked. You weren't expected to be a master at either. Yeah. And then I got to meet my soon to be professors, got to meet Julie Licata, and I worked with her on all the classical percussion and hand drumming.
mm.
Really had no experience in. And then I worked with my drum set professor, whose name is Blake Fleming. He was the founding drummer for this band called the Mars Volta.
Oh yeah.
So he was the founding drummer for that. And
Wow.
he was phenomenal. Still keep in touch with him. And they basically let me tailor the major kind of to what I wanted, which I loved. It wasn't the whole like, all right, let's do jazz, because jazz is the foundation for everything. It was just like, all right, so what do you want to do in life? I'm like, oh, I want to do pit drumming. And they're like, cool, you need to know a lot of things for that. And I'm like, yeah, I don't feel great at certain things. And then they asked me the golden question, in my opinion, which now I ask all my students, my private students. They said, what do you suck at?
To continue producing the high-quality podcast you're listening to, publishing engaging newsletter content, and posting YouTube videos, we would appreciate any financial contributions you can make. We appreciate any support you can give. There are a couple of ways you can do that. You can sign up to be a monthly or annual subscriber at BroadwayDrumming101.com. You can also contribute any amount you wish through PayPal at paypal.me/BroadwayDrumming101 or through Venmo at Broadway Drumming 101. Don't forget to subscribe to the Broadway Drumming 101 YouTube page. You'll find more content that isn't featured on the podcast or on the Broadway Drumming 101 Instagram page. Make sure when you subscribe to the YouTube page, you click on the button to be notified when a new video is published. Thanks again for listening to the Broadway Drumming 101 podcast.
I was like, I suck at jazz, I suck at classical, I suck at Latin, I suck at hand drums, I have no mallet chops, I don't know how to play timpani really. Like, I started listing off a bunch of different things. And they were like, great, now we have something to work on.
Okay.
And we just did all of that. I did marimba calisthenics with Julie, and like a bunch of independent stuff with Blake that really helped me. So I didn't feel pressured to just focus on one thing and one thing only. It was just everything I needed and more.
That's great.
Yeah.
Then that was 2019.
Yep.
Did you eventually wind up finishing later since something happened the next year?
Yeah, COVID. That was fun. Yeah, so I graduated in May 2021 from Oneonta, and I lived on campus, right? I was a transfer up there and lived on campus from fall 2019 till we eventually got kicked off of campus in March of 2020. And then we had to move all of those lessons online, which was interesting to say the least. Doing drum lessons through Blackboard or Zoom or whatever, it was a time because there's delay. You can only do so much. I'm in my basement with my laptop pointed at my drum set a certain way. Like, the quality is shit. It was a time, but we made do. And what was really cool was when I had to go back up to the school to clean out my dorm, because when COVID happened, that was our spring break. That was supposed to be our spring break. So everyone left school thinking like, all right, we're going to be back in a week. Then they're like, no, now you're going to be back in 2 weeks. Actually, you're never coming back. All of my stuff was still in my dorm. So we had to go back up. We had to schedule times to go back up to get stuff out of my dorm. And my professor, Julie Licata, she was like, why don't you take a marimba home with you? So you have something to practice. And I was like, sure, I have a Subaru Outback. I can fit that in. Let's do it. So she gives me this 4.3 octave marimba, which is a pretty decent sized marimba, right? We break down the stands, put the resonators in, get all the bars rolled up. And then I have to fit all the other shit from my dorm on top of that. My car was filled to the brim. So yeah, did all that and then got back home, set it all up. And now I actually have another instrument that I could practice for the rest of the year. And she's like, bring it back next semester when hopefully we're back in person. Yeah. But I did most of my college journey online, I would say. Music major. I got to finish out my college semester, like my last college semester, I got to finish it in person. I did the whole thing at Oneonta in the spring of 2021. That was all in person, which was great. But I never got to walk. I never got to walk like for graduation. PowerPoint presentation that said my name very awkwardly.
Going back to stuff that you were listening to in high school, you were big into EDM.
Yeah.
What are some of the groups or artists that were popular with you at the time?
Some of my favorites were like Tiesto, Cash Cash, Tritonal, Hardwell, Martin Garrix, Steve Aoki. And you're shaking your head right now. I don't know any of these people.
You saying Little Baby, Little Lottie, man. I feel old and I am old, but EDM is a whole other thing. That's so fascinating to me.
Yeah, I really loved it because the melodies were really cool, and that's what really drew me into it. The drum beat was just 4 on the floor the entire time. It was nothing crazy, nothing special.
Okay.
I just loved the different melodies and the different synths that they were using. The technological side of it and the production side really is what drew me in as well. I went to my first rave when I was 16 and saw Steve Aoki at the Beacon Theater in New York City.
So Steve is a DJ or is he
He's
producer?
a DJ, producer. So he makes his own music. And how do producers showcase their music? They DJ.
They're the ones up there pushing the buttons and everybody's streaming and they're doing the same. Interesting. I've seen them. Like, what are they doing?
Yep.
So are they actually changing things while they're up there or they're playing the track?
So they're playing the track, they're live EQing, they're doing things called like blending, where they are transitioning from one song to the other seamlessly without there being like a stop in the music. You know, so they're layering 2 songs, maybe even 3 songs on top of each other. So maybe like a drum beat from one song and then the vocal stem from the other, and then like a melody from another song. They're putting that all on top of each other by like matching up the BPMs and then syncing it all at the right time, like so triggering when to hit play. Because I know like DJs get shit on a lot, and like from high school to like just before I started this tour, I used to do wedding DJing as a side gig. And people would be like, you're just pressing play, you're just playing random songs. It's like, you're right, I am, but at the same time, it's much more than that. I'm choosing when to put in certain songs. I have to craft when exactly to drop the next song so that there's not a dead space. I'm layering Shape of You by Ed Sheeran over Replay by Rihanna, like taking the drum beat from Pon Replay, looping that, and then having Shape of You go over that. So it completely changes the vibe of the song.
So college is done.
Yep.
You get some skills, move to New York City to pursue a career as a musician here. What was your goal?
Yeah, my goal, like, eventually was to sub on Broadway for whoever, just sub a show. That was the first goal, to do that. And then the end goal, which still my end goal, is to get a chair. But that's going to take time, and I know that. Now, I didn't think I was going to sub like immediately. I was like, this is a long process. I still have to meet people. People have to see me play, all that. They need to make sure that I can do the thing. So I live a half hour, 40-minute drive from the city. I was still with my parents. I didn't feel the need to move out yet. And also, I was by no means in the financial place to move out because that's a thing. Moving out on your own, getting an apartment, that costs a lot of money. I didn't have that. So I felt like, all right, I need to do some other work right now. While I was in college, I was looking at other potential performing jobs, and I started performing in theme parks around the country. So the first theme park I ever performed at was Dorney Park in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
How'd you get that job?
I had some friends that I had met throughout my time doing different gigs that had performed in theme parks. They recommended that I audition for this company called Windish Entertainment, headed by this guy named Michael Windish. He's one of the best jazz drummers I know. He used to drum for Chubby Checker. He now owns this drum shop in Westchester, Pennsylvania called Junk Rock Drums, which is a really cool drum shop. And I auditioned for his company, and I sent in like drum set videos. Like I think I sent in a rudimental snare solo, like the one I did for my college audition. And like by no means was it good, that rudimental one, because I had no rudimental skills really. Sent that in, and I got an email back saying, hey, can you send us some videos of you like mimicking you interacting with a crowd while you have a marching snare on? We want to see how you interact with a crowd and all that. I was like, sure, no problem. Then they asked me for a singing video. I can't sing, Clayton. I can't sing. I wish I could hold a tune. I can't. I can match a note and then that's it. But I can't hold a tune. Then in the summer, not in the summer, but I would say like June, I get an email with an offer to do this show called The Pulse of Carnival. And it's for this celebration at Dorney called Grand Carnival. And it's a celebration of all different cultures. They have food from all different cultures, different shows, like a parade throughout the park that represents different cultures. And it was really cool. So I show up and it's a drumline show. I still had really no drumline experience. And they were like, yeah, so Frank, we're going to put you on the snare line. There were 2 bass drum players. So I was like, wait, why can't I do bass drum? They're like, no, we're going to put you on the snare line. I'm like, okay. So we're going through the music, and we have about a week and a half of rehearsals before the first show. And it's a 15-minute show. And I don't really know how to play traditional. And I'm surrounded by like a kid that's in his local drum line in Philly, a DCI wannabe, and then a kid that did an HBCU drum line. Okay. And the HBCU drum lines don't mess around.
Yes.
Their drum lines are amazing. And he was a saint. He like helped me so much. He's still one of my closest friends to this day. He worked with me on my grip, like on all the stick tricks that we had to do, because I was a baby. I didn't know any of this. So we're there, we're going through the music, and now we have to figure out who's going to be in the front 2 snares. And it's usually the best players. Okay. I got put in the front 2 snares. It was me and the HBCU guy, not because I was the best player. I was arguably the worst player in that group. It's because I had the most enthusiasm.
Okay.
And I realized that moment for theme park shows, they don't necessarily really care that like you are technically the best. The whole goal with a theme park show is that the crowd has fun watching you. It's the visual. And I was getting paid to play drums, wear a jester costume, and act like an idiot for 15 minutes each time I went up there. I was like, this is awesome. I'm already a wacky guy, so let me do this. And that's why they put me on the front 2 snares. Yeah, like I did not really have great traditional grip. I could barely do the stick tricks. But after that, my boss, Mike Windish, liked my playing, that he offered me another contract at that same park that literally started, I think, 2 weeks after the other one concluded.
Okay.
So it was a quick turnaround. And now I'm doing a Halloween drumming show that's all Blue Man Group inspired. And we're improvising the entire show basically over a track. And it was great. And then that led to another one at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, Virginia. And then it just kept snowballing and spiraling.
Then when did you decide to, that one in I guess, Virginia, right? Is that
Yeah.
the last one? That was the last one. Did you come back home after that to?
Yes. I came
Okay.
back home after that. And I didn't, so I got offered a winter contract to do in California that I turned
Mm,
down. And to be fair, I turned it down because of a girl that I was seeing at the time. And I was like, let me stay back with the girl. And that didn't work out. But it's okay. We live and we learn, Clayton. So stayed back. And this is where we start to trickle into the Broadway stuff. In December of 2021, I took a lesson with Shannon Ford, who I had known for a few years at that point already. And I had formed this friendship and relationship with him. I had been given the drum book and the audio recordings to Beetlejuice when they were at the Winter Garden. I would go and sit in with Shannon just to watch him. I thought it was fun. He was a really cool player. He gave me the book and the audio recordings just as practice material for myself. I had messaged him like, hey man, I want to do a lesson with you just because like I have some questions about the book. I'm just working on it for myself. Can we meet up? He's like, yeah, absolutely. So we met up at Funkadelic Studios in Midtown and did a lesson, and he heard me play and he really liked how I played the book. And he was like, you sound like me. And I'm like, that's the gig. That's what it's supposed to be. So we're talking, and I saw that the Beetlejuice tour had just been announced. And I was like, hey, so like, how does one go about auditioning for that? And he's, I don't know, but you should be the drummer. And I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, I would like that. He's, yeah, I'll ask some questions, but I think you're probably going to have to come sub for me on Broadway. I was like, okay, yeah, that's what I would really love to do. Yeah. So let's do it. So I started prepping and just worked on the book. He gave me audio recordings from the new Broadway run when they got to the marquee. I'd go sit in with him like once or twice a week. And then I made my Broadway subbing debut on Beetlejuice at the ripe age of 22. And I'll never forget the date. It was May 15th, 2021, or no, no,
2022.
2022. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
2022, because I graduated college a year to the day prior.
Okay.
So May 15th, 2021, graduated college. May 15th, 2022, made my Broadway subbing debut. And I had all the audio recordings, no, he didn't give me the overhead pit recordings of him playing the show, but I sat in enough, had all my notes. I go in and I'm nervous as all hell. Like people in that pit are telling me like, hey, you're the youngest person to ever play this show. You know that? And I'm like, don't tell me that. That's no, please don't put that in my head.
You know how hard this is, man. Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. Josh Samuels was the percussionist on that. He came
Yes.
by beforehand. Because he was playing the show with me that day, and he was like, good luck, man, kill it, all that. We start the show, and I noticed this immediately. The whole show pretty much is on click. I had not played with a click in a live environment prior to that. And it is much different playing in a live environment with a click track than practicing with a metronome in your basement. And my adrenaline was through the roof. And I think because of that, the click felt slower than how I practiced everything.
Oh,
And
wow.
naturally, I was rushing things. So in the first number, we're about 3/4 of the way through the number. I rushed one of the drum fills and I got off the click to the point where I'm now seesawing with the click. And I couldn't get back on to save my life. And like the conductor's doing everything in his power to get me back on. And he just ultimately makes the decision to kill the click for the rest of that song. Now, killing the click, if I understand it correctly, killing the click means you're killing all the other cues that are connected with the click because the click is attached to time code. So you're killing all the lighting cues, you're killing all the sound effects, you're killing all the set pieces moving, everything else. Now everyone has to do their job manually. That's how I understood it. That could also not be true, but I don't know. That's how I understood it. And we get through that. We keep doing the rest of the show. The rest of the show was okay. Like I made it through. No train wreck moments besides that. No train wreck moments for the rest of the show. Like I get through. I get out of the theater. My family's there. My mom's crying because she saw her son make her Broadway debut, all that. Very emotional. We go back and I get a call from Shannon the next morning saying, hey, man, so we can't have you back. The producers see you as a liability and not an asset. That was like soul crushing. And like, I had just been told that I can't come back and play a show that I'd worked really hard on. I had simultaneously reached the highest point in my life while also reaching the lowest. And it was traumatizing. And I cried for 2 straight weeks. I was like, I don't know how to play my instrument. I don't know what to do. Like Josh Samuels called me that day as well. Hey man, I know I'm really sorry. If you need to talk about it, I'm here. And I appreciated all that, but I was just so distraught and just so heartbroken. I didn't come out of my room for 2 days. Like my mom was like worried about me. And it was terrible. But like I knew I had to bounce back. I had to take a break. Broadway drumming and pit drumming in general. I just needed to like take a break from it all. And like Shannon Ford gave me like really like kind words on that call. He's, listen, no one there thinks you did a bad job per se. They could tell you did your homework. You were playing the fills that I played. You hit all the little nuanced things. You did your homework. I'm still going to call you for gigs. I'm still going to help you out in whatever way you need. This one just didn't work out. And I also knew that meant I'm not getting the tour. And that was the goal. So it was really soul crushing. Fast forward about 3 weeks. Before I made my debut at Beetlejuice, I had already signed a contract to play during the summer at Carowinds, which is a theme park in Charlotte, North Carolina. And I like already signed that. I was going to be there for a month and then go to Dorney for a month in the summer. So I was like, cool, no problem. So I had that lined up for beginning/middle of June. And fast forward about 2 to 3 weeks, and I get a call from Mr. Clayton Craddock. And he's, hey man, do you want to come sub for me at Paper Mill Playhouse on Sister Act? And I said no, because I had already signed the contract, because the date you wanted me to sub was during that contract. And I also said no for my own mental health, because I didn't feel ready. I didn't feel like I was ready to hop back in yet. And I was like, I'm not going to ruin his reputation too, because I felt like I had already ruined Shannon's reputation. I was like, I'm not doing that to another one. I don't want to have that. I don't want to have that happen again. So I'm going to say no and do the theme park thing and just try to get back on my feet again. Sorry I couldn't sub for you, but
it's all right.
So fast forward, I go to Carowinds, I do the show there, and I'm not even on drum set for that show. I'm doing all Latin hand percussion. It's a Latin funk band, which is really fun. And I'm doing congas, bongos, timbales, like all of that. And it was great. The whole show was on click as well.
Wow. So you got some experience.
Like, the first time I heard the click again, it was like PTSD.
Oh, really?
And it was like PTSD. I felt immediately like I was back in the drum booth again. I progressively got more and more comfy with it throughout that summer. I was also the drum set swing. So whenever the main drum set player had a day off or couldn't play, I'd go in and cover. So I got comfy with that again, playing drum set with a click, a live environment. So kept doing that. Then I started playing with this country band, which was really fun. They made me even more comfortable because they were like, hey, we need you to run a click for the entire band. And then you're going to be playing drum set. So I was like, great. And it's all original tunes too, for the most part. Originals and some covers. But I was like, great. These are songs I don't even know that I have to run click for. So this is going to be great. Got really back on my feet, got more comfortable with click. And yeah.
Were these experiences with charts or were you playing by ear?
The theme park stuff was with charts. The country band was all by ear. Yeah.
What you're telling me is the blueprint for success playing on Broadway or really anywhere else, because you had something that happened to you, but then you got the experience to make you better. You had no time to play country music or any other kind of music without charts. Then you get thrown into this country band and you get to play original music and you get to make things up. So all these experiences, without you even knowing it, are just making you a more well-rounded and better musician.
Exactly.
After the theme park, then did you come back to New York and try to reach out to musicians on Broadway to try to sub? Like, what was your...
I still didn't feel like I was ready.
Okay.
So I felt like it was still very fresh, the fiasco, as I like to call it, the Beetlejuice fiasco. So I still felt like it was very fresh. And I had, Mike Windish had given me another theme park gig at Dorney Park for the fall. So I was like, cool, I'm going to do that. I'm playing drum set, which is great. It's another click show. I'll be able to get more comfy again. But before I left for that, this is like September 2022, I wanted to meet up with Shannon before I left. So I was like, hey, like, I'm going to be in the city this day. Let's meet up, grab lunch, catch up. Right. And he was like, yeah, sure. So we met up at this place. I think it was called like Dalton's on 9th Ave, really cool sports bar. We go and we're talking, catching up, shooting the shit. Felt great. And I saw that he had done Kimberly Akimbo off Broadway. And I saw that it was getting a Broadway transfer. So I was like, oh, I saw Kimberly's getting a Broadway transfer. How's all that going? How was that? He's, oh, it's great. I got to send you the materials. And I'm like, why? And he's, so you can sub for me. And I'm like, why? What? I just ruined your reputation back there. Why would you want me to sub for you again? And he's like, yeah, you got your ass handed to you on a silver platter. You fell flat on your face, but you need to bounce back. And I know you can do this. This is a testament to the type of person Shannon Ford is. Second chances are not really common in this. He saw something in me that I really didn't see in myself. And he gave me a second chance. And as we see now, it panned out and it worked. So like for that time, I didn't sub at Kimberly on Broadway until Valentine's Day in 2023, I think. So I had from September till then to practice. Like he gave me the book. Then he gave me the off-Broadway recordings. Then once they got on Broadway, he sent me the new recordings. Then he sent me overhead drum cam footage. And during that time, I was still doing theme parks. So I was at Dorney from September to October. Then I did Six Flags Great Adventure from November to December. And then January, I finally went and sat in the booth with him and started shadowing, taking notes. And I was like, all right, we're hopping back in the game. Let's do it. And I went gung ho. And Kimberly Akimbo was all I listened to for that time. Eat, sleep, and breathe that show. And luckily, I could go into the theater when the show wasn't happening and I could practice on the setup. So Shannon was like, yeah, you just got to reserve a time with stage management or company management or whoever. So I'd be there from 10 or 11 in the morning till 5 p.m. just shedding the show. And I'd go 2 or 3 times a week just to shed. So I'm spending $20 round trip every day on the Metro North to get back and forth. I was like, I'm not messing this one up. I'm making sure this one's right. And I took every step I could to make sure that I didn't mess this up. And the biggest thing was I told you, like, all the songs when I play them at Beetlejuice that day, they all felt slower than how I practiced them. So what I did for this, and this is a tip everyone can steal, I took the conductor cam videos and the audio recordings and I threw them into Final Cut Pro, okay, the video editing software. I slowed them down by 5%. And I practiced the entire show slowed down. And then I would gradually raise it 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. And then I raised it up 5% as well, right? I was like, I'm going to be comfy with whatever tempo gets thrown my way. So that when I went into sub for my first time, the first song, it starts off with this like ukulele thing, right? No drums for 8 bars. After that, like, once the conductor counted off and I heard the ukulele, I'm like, yeah, I know this tempo. We're good. And I felt fine.
Was there a click track?
No click whatsoever in this show.
What?
No click whatsoever.
At all?
At all.
That's crazy.
But to be honest, I don't think that mattered. I think like my adrenaline was getting the best of me that day at Beetlejuice, that like I needed to just be comfy, like at whatever tempo. So I was like, I'm not letting that happen again. So that's why I slowed it down. And I'm happy I did, because I guarantee like my adrenaline was already kicking back into high gear again. Like I was having PTSD, and it's just like, all right, this might be a slower tempo, but I don't care. I've heard this tempo already, know it. So I feel good to go. And I did the show. And by no means was it a perfect show. By no means. I messed up a few times. Like forgot a triangle cue, didn't hit the bell of the ride cymbal for a solo bell hit when I should have. Maybe tempos weren't the greatest. But after the show, the conductor was like packing up and getting ready to go home. And I chased after him. And I was like, hey, Chris, are we doing notes? And he's like, no. And I'm like, am I fired? And he, because I was like, oh, he didn't bother to take notes. I sucked that bad that he didn't bother to take notes. And he was like, no, you did great. I'll see you next time.
What?
And I'm like, huh? And the associate music director was right next to him. And he's like, Frank, you seem disappointed. And I'm like, yeah, I am. That wasn't a perfect show. And then I get the call from Shannon the next day. Hey, Chris said you did great. You want to do next weekend?
What? That's great.
Like, great. So sub there for a year and some change. And yeah, until it closed on Broadway. Yeah.
And so tell me how you got to where you are now.
Yeah. So I think in April of 2023, the tour got announced. And I had texted Shannon, hey, I'm interested. I don't know what the proper chain of command is to get this information to where it needs to be. But I told him, and then I went to our music director next time I subbed in. I said, hey, Chris, I'm interested in doing the tour. I'd love to be considered. And he's great. We need a young guy with no obligations, no commitments. And I was like, that's me. I have nothing tying me down here. I don't have a girlfriend. I'm still with my parents. No rent, no overheads. I'm down. And I didn't hear anything for about 8 to 10 months. And then I get a call one day from our contractor, Antoine Silverman. And he's, hey, man, heard you're interested in the tour. This isn't a formal offer, but here's everything you need to know. And then 2 weeks later, I get a formal offer. And there was no audition process because I had subbed the show. So they knew I knew how to play it. And here we are. We started in September of 2024 in Utica. We did all of our tech in Utica. We had 2 preview performances up there. And then we went all the way to Denver. And that's where we officially opened the tour.
How different is your drum setup on the tour as opposed to Shannon's setup on Broadway?
Not too different. I took out a few things and like kind of, I don't know, like he had these trays, these like gig trays. He had one that was under the mounted tambourine, like in front of the snare drum, or like behind the snare drum, I should say, next to the rack tom. And then he had one under the ride cymbal. I took the one that was under the ride cymbal and I put it to the right of the ozone crash, which is all the way on the right side of the setup. And I took that other tray that was in back of the snare drum, and I moved that to like where my aviom is, like behind me. And he would rest like triangle beaters, sticks on it. Me, the one that's all the way on my right next to the ozone stand, I keep my shaker, 2 sets of brushes, and then a triangle beater on it. And that's it. And then the one that's on my aviom, I keep my little tambourine hi-hat attachment. And then he also had another tray that had acoustic foam paneling that has the little valleys in it. He put that on a tray and he rested all of his mallets in there. I thought it was like, that's a genius idea. I think that's great. I took that out completely. And I now keep my mallets in my stick bag, which is on the floor tom. And then I have a towel that I use that I lay across the glockenspiel or the piccolo snare, depending on the song. And I use that as like another trap table for me to throw mallets on because I'm taller than Shannon. I'm not sure Shannon's exact height, but he is shorter than me by a substantial amount. I'm 6'2". Shannon's maybe 5'7", 5'8". And because I'm taller, I need things more spread out. Shannon liked to have everything very close. I was like, I need things more spread out. And because I'm in a drum booth, I'm confined by space. So I don't have necessarily a lot of room for certain things. So I had to take out that tray. I had to move around the other trays. But I would say like 95% of the setup is the same.
Touring can be really demanding. What are some things that you do to keep your mental well-being and your physical well-being while on tour?
Yeah, that's a big thing I had to learn. It's hard. This is my first tour. I'm still learning stuff every day. It's a union tour, so we have a nice schedule. Like the minimum stay time in each city is at least a week. I have other friends that have to deal with one-nighters or split weeks. I know that can be detrimental to the body and to the mind from what I hear. One of the things I've found is putting yourself first is one of the best things you can do. If you're in a city and you want to do something, go do it. Prioritize your happiness. Don't wait on others to tell you if they're down to do something with you. I've learned a lot about my own mental health on this tour because you're going to realize some people on tour are very introverted or very reserved and they just want to stay in their hotel room all day. And that's fine. You can't force anyone to hang out with you. Another thing is other people on tour are in relationships with each other and they just want to be with their person and not with anyone else. And that's fine as well. So you have to realize it's not personal that people maybe don't want to hang out with you. Just go do the things that you want to do. Don't wait on others. Do the things that make you happy. Like I'm a very wacky and extroverted guy, and that took me a while to process. Oh no, these people don't want to not hang out with me. They just want to be with their person right now. And sometimes people just want their alone time. And like that took a lot for me to really get through my head. I'll put in my band group chat, like when we were in LA, I'm like, hey, I'm going to go walk down Hollywood Boulevard. Hey, I'm going to go do this or whatever city. And sometimes I'll get radio silence. I won't get a response whatsoever. And I had to learn to not take that personally. It's just like they're preoccupied doing other things. Just, I'm going to go do what I want to do. Like I'm a roller coaster enthusiast. I go to theme parks on this tour all the time.
Before you go on with that, I was just thinking about all the places that you mentioned. And when I was on tour 25 years ago, I remember going to different places like King's Dominion, Dorney Park. I went to Dorney Park with my kids, but there's one place that has the biggest theme park in the United States, not theme park, biggest amusement park. It's in the Midwest. What's it called again?
Oh, Cedar Point?
Cedar Point, which I never went to. But we drove by it. Wow, look at all those roller coasters. Yeah, being on tour, you get to see the United States. And it seems like you're like me. You like to see things while you're in these cities. You like to explore.
Absolutely.
What's your favorite part of the United States?
Oh, I don't know about favorite part, but favorite city we've been to on this tour is San Francisco.
Why is that?
I know San Francisco gets a bad rep because of the homeless population and all that. Where the theater was, I played at the theater right next to where you did Soul Train. And the area is not great there. I'll admit, like the homeless population is there. But like outside of that, like the city's great. It's a beautiful city. And I'm a foodie. So like I ate my weight in sourdough while we were there. Had great burgers, just like great sandwiches. There was so much to do and so much to see.
Yeah, saying last time I was there in San Francisco, I was there in 2017 in the Bay Area at Berkeley Rep. And first time seeing San Francisco. And then I went north to Bolinas Ridge and I saw the sunset, the fall coming in. It's just magical. And going to see the Golden Gate Bridge and being up there. And I don't know if you went to the Presidio.
Yes, love the Presidio. Beautiful area.
And the Palace of Fine Arts over there.
Yep.
I think it's such a beautiful city, and I think they're changing it. They're trying to make it better. They need to just change their whole approach to things because it's such a beautiful place to live, and the weather's pretty nice depending on where you are. The microclimates of there, it's interesting. The mountains and the stairs. And the way it looks, I look out over it, I'm like, oh my God, it's such a beautiful place. I just can't stand the way that it's run. I'm like, what's wrong with you guys?
Sure. Yeah.
But man, it's like you said, I'll probably cut this in.
Yeah.
Like you said, I think the city outside of the Tenderloin in the downtown area, even though some parts of downtown are nice, you got to watch out. But
Sure.
there's so many great parts of that city. It does get a bad rap, and it's unfortunate that certain parts aren't the way it should be. But it is a really pretty city, no doubt.
Yeah. Same way with Seattle. That was another
Mm.
great one. And Seattle sometimes gets a bad rap too, but I thoroughly enjoyed my time there. That was probably number 2 for me.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess you went to Pikes Peak, and did you see them throw the fish and all that?
I loved it. I had my first clam chowder there.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yep. It was great.
You go to the original Starbucks? That's where you don't drink coffee.
I don't drink I walked by it. I saw the line that went out the door.
Was it ever sunny there when you were there?
It was
Really?
sunny almost the entire time we were there,
What?
which was phenomenal. We lucked out so well with the weather there. It rained maybe like twice for 2 hours.
What? That's great.
Yeah, and we were there in January.
Did you go to the mountain that's out there? I forgot what it's called.
Rainier?
Yeah.
No, we didn't. I saw it from a distance, but
Yeah,
we
you could see it.
we
Can't
didn't
help
go.
but see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mess with me and I'll take all of you guys out. But yeah, I love the West.
Yeah,
I was traveling around. Again, you're 25?
I'm 25.
When I was on tour, I think I was in my early 30s. I remember all the younger people they would like sleep on the bus as we were driving down from Eugene, Oregon, Seattle, and then Eugene, Oregon down to, I think we played Bakersfield, California, but just then going down to the Southwest and seeing the mesas. That's why I fell in love with the West, fell in love with mountains. And these people are sleeping and not even paying attention, just like what you're doing now. You're getting out there and seeing things and exploring, and people are home. They don't know what they're missing. They don't understand. They may never be in these cities ever again.
That's what I'm saying. I'm taking advantage of it while I'm here. And like when we're on the buses too, like traveling from city to city, people are sleeping. I don't sleep because I get car sick very easily.
Okay.
That's why I will never sleep on a moving vehicle. But yeah, so like I love just staring out the window mindlessly while music's playing in my ears and just like taking photos of whatever I think is pretty.
Listening to some EDM.
Yeah, no, now it's all like soul pop and funk pop. We've talked about the bands I like before, but yeah.
Wait, what did we talk about those before?
In person, the bands I'd listen to currently.
That's right. We did talk about that.
Yeah, I think I sent you some of them.
Name them here since we're.
So my favorite band is this brother-sister duo called Lawrence.
That's
Yeah.
right. They're great.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. And like now I think what happened with EDM, me liking all the melodic stuff, that transferred over to this because this band has a horn section. And now I'm obsessed with bands that have horn sections. So they're number 1. And then number 2 is my friend's band. It's called Couch. And they're the same way. Like they have horn sections and it's just very fun, upbeat music. It's not really a down moment, I would say. It's just upbeat. And I don't know. I really get into that. So yeah, bands like that, like another one's like Ripe. Stone Mountain Orchestra is a really cool one that I found. They're from Sweden, but they're really fun. So yeah, just fun, upbeat music, has horns. That's a bonus. That's what I'm into.
So speaking of staying upbeat, being out there on tour by yourself, not having family or close friends there, how do you maintain your positive vibe? Is it just by sightseeing?
It's hard. It's hard, man. Because like I said, I had to learn how to not take that stuff personally. And that definitely took a toll on my mental health. And I got into some ruts on tour where I was like, man, is my extrovertedness and wackiness like throwing people off that they don't want to hang out with me? So like I said, I really just learned to prioritize your own happiness. And like you will start to feel better about yourself. So one of my favorite things to do is cook. I'm Italian, born and bred. Like my dad, he was born in Italy. My mom was born and raised in the Bronx, right? And like I am half Neapolitan, half Sicilian. So like I love cooking. My mom and my grandmother, they taught me how to cook. So like anytime we're in a hotel that has a kitchen, I feel at peace. Like cooking is my therapeutic activity. So like yesterday, I made some fettuccine bolognese and some cheesy garlic bread. And it was fantastic. And I still have leftovers that I'm going to get into after this interview.
I'm coming over.
Great. I got you. I'll save you a bowl. So yeah, you have to find the things that make you happy. That's why I like to do the theme parks, go out to museums, just go out for walks. I'm going to the Henry Ford Museum tomorrow. On Friday, I'm gonna go over the border. I'm gonna go to Canada because Windsor is right there. But yeah, just doing the things that make you happy, regardless whether or not you have somebody to share it with. Like my best friend on this tour is our head of props. She is overworked. She does so much stuff for this tour. She doesn't really have a lot of time for herself. So she wants to just spend time alone, read a book, and do whatever. And that's fine. I don't want to bother her all the time. So I have to go do things by myself. And I'm learning to be happy with that. Yeah. So just prioritizing your own happiness. That's the biggest piece of advice for tour.
Amusement parks.
Yeah.
Your favorite roller coaster of all time is?
I would say Velocicoaster at Universal Studios. It's themed to Jurassic World and like Jurassic Park, that whole thing. It's just batshit insane. Really fun. I got to ride it for the first time last year. Really cool.
Did you go on the New York roller coaster in Vegas?
No, and I'm going to tell you why. I would have, but it was $25 per ride.
What? That's crazy.
I was like, no, that's crazy. I'm not paying that. I'm not.
Cool though.
History for being rough too. And I was like, that's not worth it.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Cyclone at Coney Island?
That ride does not get enough credit. Okay. I rode it for the first time last year. Wild, because there's no seatbelt on the ride.
It's just a bar.
Yeah, it's just a bar. And the bar doesn't even hit it just comes over like the top. Anytime you go over a hill, your ass is out of the seat. You think you're gonna fall right out of the roller coaster.
Rickety.
Yeah, it's rickety. It is so much fun. I loved it. Smoother than I thought too, actually. Like it's rickety because it's wood, but
yeah,
still decently smooth. But man, that ride was insane. That cost like $10 just to ride it. Better than the New York coaster.
Yeah, Cyclone. I haven't been on a roller coaster in, I don't know, 10 years. I don't think I'll ever go again.
Sure.
But yeah, it's definitely worth getting on just for the experience.
It's a historic coaster. Like just to say you did it. If you live in the boroughs, take the subway down. Just do it. Yeah.
Shannon Ford is like center of your professional life right now.
Yep.
How did you meet Shannon, and what advice would you give to people that are interested in meeting musicians that play on Broadway? And
Sure.
Tell me what you did to get connected to him.
Yeah. So in 2018 and 2019, I did the NYU Broadway percussion seminar. And I think they still do it to this day. Jonathan Haas and Sean Statzer, they run it. And like really great like program. It's a week long at NYU, and different Broadway drummers and percussionists show up and they do master classes, and you're assigned a show and you play some of the music from that show for said drummer or percussionist, and then they critique you. And then at night you get to sit in with them in the pit. Awesome experience. So the second year I did it, Josh Samuels was one of the presenters, and he is the percussionist at Beetlejuice. And I was not a percussionist, really. I was still more of a drum set player. This was before I went to Oneonta. And I loved Josh's chaotic energy. Josh, he is just a ball of energy, and I love him. I love that about him. So after his whole presentation, I went up to him and I was like, hey man, like I'm more of a drum set player than a percussionist, but I really love your energy and the show seems really fun. Can I sit in with you someday? I live in New York. Can I just come sit in with you? He's like, yeah, how about next week? I'm like, great. Awesome. So went in, sat in the pit with him at the Winter Garden, and I had a blast. Like it was so much fun watching him run around that setup. Then during intermission, you said you're more of a drum set player, right? I'm like, yeah. You should go talk to Shannon. Shannon's the drum set player. I feel like you'd really connect more with him. I'm like, okay. So I go over to Shannon and I'm like, hey man, I'm more of a drum set player. I'm sitting in with Josh right now, but I would love the chance to sit in with you someday. Can I get like your email or your Facebook or whatever? He's like, yeah, here's my number, here's my email, Facebook, all that. let's schedule something. And literally the week after that, I sat in with Shannon for the first time. And I loved Shannon's energy because he's just as chaotic as Josh. And it's like my type of person. Like my personality, like Clayton, you know me, like I'm a very extroverted person. So like Shannon matched that. And I was like, yeah, this guy is just awesome. So I kept in touch with him, would keep him posted on stuff I was doing. I'd wish him happy Thanksgiving, Merry Christmas, all that. He'd keep me posted on stuff he was doing. I'd send him photos from my theme park contracts of me in funny costumes. He'd send me photos of him in funny costumes from different shows he's done. And we just formed this relationship. And then when he eventually asked me to sub and all that, he really became more of a mentor and like really took me under his wing, showed me the ropes, what to do, what not to do. And then the rest is history with that. And now like I tell Shannon this every time I see him. I owe him my career like completely. And he's shut up. You don't owe me shit. And I'm like, no, I do. Like you literally gave me my first shot, my first big break. I blew it. And then you gave me my second shot. And now, you know, I'm here. Like I owe you literally everything. So he is one of the sweetest humans ever in this industry, in my opinion. So yeah, I have the utmost respect for him and like just owe him everything. But for people that are hopeful that want to get into this industry, I have two big pieces of advice, right? The first thing is do things that aren't musical theater. So like I said, like I did theme parks, right? Got put on the snare line, had never done marching, didn't know like what DCI was. Like my roommate on that contract was a trumpet player in Blue Devils. And I was like, what's Blue Devils? And that was like taking a knife, stabbing it through his heart and twisting it. Cause he was like, Blue Devils 2013, Fellini-esque. I'm like, is that like a marching band? And he's like, it's a drum corps. And I'm like, oh, sorry, dude. Whoops, my bad. So yeah, all that, right? But yeah, did like theme parks, did the country band, do things that showcase you're not just doing musical theater, because musical theater is a lot of things. It's different genres, different styles. You need to know all that. So get yourself exposed to all that. Like I didn't have any of the jazz training or the classical training going into college. I had to do all that with my professors and then on my own as well, but I didn't know where to start. So I got the guidance. And then my last piece of advice, and this is probably the biggest thing, is like when I did the Broadway percussion seminar my first year, I heard a quote from one of who I think is one of the best Broadway drummers out there, in my opinion, Clint DeGannon. Okay. He gave a quote at this seminar and he said, your personality will get you farther than your talent will.
Are you loving what you're hearing on Broadway Drumming 101? If so, make sure to follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you stream. And while you're there, take a second to leave us a glowing 5-star review. Your support helps us to reach people. Want even more? Head over to our YouTube channel, search Broadway Drumming 101 and hit subscribe. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you'll always know when new content drops. Subscribers to Broadway Drumming 101 will gain early access and an exclusive discount to Broadway Bound and Beyond, a musician's guide to building a theater career, published under our imprint, Syncopated Publishing. Keep an eye out for pre-orders coming soon. When you subscribe to Broadway Drumming 101 for just $10 a month or $100 a year, you'll unlock exclusive posts and in-depth articles that dive into everything from Broadway drumming's history to the modern realities of pit life. It's content you won't find anywhere else. Join us today, and thank you for listening.
And that quote stuck with me since that day because I don't think I'm the best drummer on the planet. I want to be the best player I can be, but I don't want to have this unrealistic expectation on my shoulders saying that I have to constantly be better than everyone around me, because truth is that's not really how you get more gigs. You need to be able to play your instrument and you need to be able to do it pretty darn well, but you also need to be a good person that's likable and that can hang. You can't just like cold message a drummer that you want to sub for and be like, hey man, saw the show. I think I can play it. Let me sub for you. First off, shareholder doesn't even know you. They're not going to let some random dude sub for them. When you meet someone that holds a chair and you tell them you're trying to break into the industry, they probably know you would love to have their gig. but they're probably waiting to see if you're going to make an effort to become their friend, maybe go see their other gigs that aren't theater, maybe just hang out with them one-on-one. So Shannon and I, we developed this great relationship before I even subbed for him. He, like I said, we'd wish each other happy holidays, whatever. I'd keep him posted on different things I was doing. He'd send me photos of his dog. So yeah, it's be a good person first and then be a good player second.
So this is your first tour.
Yeah.
First time playing on a show, doing a consistent thing for 8 shows a week, not being able to take off. How do you maintain consistency and focus and not get bored or like distracted?
Yeah. So luckily, since this show is not on click, we experience different tempos a lot. And unpredictable things can happen in a show. An actor can miss their cue, their cue line in, miss their entrance. Something could go haywire in the pit. An instrument cable could completely just shit the bed during the show. I could drop a stick. So because we don't have a click, tempos fluctuate and the music is allowed to breathe and move a little bit. And I like that. And that's what kind of keeps it fresh for me. And depending on who's conducting, it's 2 very different shows. So versus like when our MD is conducting versus when our AMD is conducting, 2 very different shows. Since we don't have click, one does it faster, one does it slower. Certain songs may be faster or slower on any given night. And we're in different places every week. So we were in Denver to open the tour. Okay. That's a mile above sea level. Altitude sickness is a real thing. Okay. You get winded very easily. They had oxygen tanks just off stage for the actors if they needed it.
Wow.
So because of that, our music director was taking certain songs a little bit slower so that the actors and singers, dancers, all that, so they don't get winded that easily. And then in other cities, we're at a normal altitude and we can do everything as normal. So like the music director makes all those changes. I don't question the music director's changes. If one day she or he is feeling like, hey, we're going to take song number 7 slower, and they don't decide to tell me, I just hear it and I realize we're going slower today. I don't question it. They're in that position of power. They can make that choice. I go with them. Some people may disagree, but that's where I'm at. That's what keeps it fresh for me. The changes that can happen with our show specifically. When you're on click, you're on click. The click is the end all say all. Yeah.
When this tour eventually ends, would you want to come back to New York, or do you have any ideas of what you'd like to do?
I wouldn't mind doing another tour if the opportunity presents itself. Because I think I'm still young, like young enough to where like I can do a tour with my current body and mental health and mind and all that. Like I wouldn't mind doing another one if the opportunity were to present itself. But at the same time, I wouldn't mind going back to New York and try my hand at subbing some more and then potentially maybe getting a chair if that ever happens. So yeah, I'm open. I'm a drummer for hire.
Anyone hearing this, hire this man. How many more weeks do you have left of this?
That's a great question. My contract's kind of like open-ended. So, I'm here until I don't want to be.
Like how many years are on the schedule?
We have dates booked through May 2026 right now.
Damn, really?
Yeah. So like I still have, in our industry, stable income is unheard of.
Yeah.
So like I have a steady paycheck for the next year and some change if I want.
Man, stay out on tour. It's expensive. It's getting more and more expensive.
I know. Tour's been great because I was able to pay off my car 2 weeks ago.
That's great.
I'm getting close to paying off my student loans.
That's even better.
So it's a great way to pay down debt and be like financially free in a sense.
Yes. But yeah, you're doing the right thing. Enjoy your time out there and stay as long as you can. And hopefully something else will come along and bring you more success. You definitely deserve it. You've put in the work and you're a great drummer, a great person. I wish you the best.
Thank you, Clayton. I really appreciate that. And I really do appreciate you for having me on this. I've been listening to the podcast since 2021, since you started it. I think I was one of the first donors to.
That's right. That's right.
And I was like, this is such an awesome thing he's doing. I want to support this. So now the fact that like you're having me on it's an amazing privilege and honor. I really do appreciate it. And also I want to say our cellist on this tour, his name is Kevin Irving. He's a cellist, but he listens to your podcast.
Really?
He loves it because a lot of the information that all of us give is not only applicable for us drummers, but it's applicable for all musicians trying to break into our scene, just trying to break into the industry in general. And he said that he's learned a lot from it. So he wants you to know that you have a fan that's a non-percussionist that's out here in Detroit. So, yeah.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you being a part of this. And it's always great to catch up with you and talk to you. And I wish you well out there in Detroit and for the rest of the tour.
Thank you, Clayton. I appreciate it.